So in any time that we've had in existence, history and so forth on this planet, we might assume there were times of greater peace, but somebody's always died. There's always been an illness of some kind. Even if there wasn't global wars, world wars, there were still conflicts somewhere in the world, on one continent or another, and so on. You know, it's hard for us to hear because so many of us are brought up in our version of spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. You know, have this, you know, kind of the spiritual, the new age notions of isn't life wonderful and rainbows and butterflies and so on. So it's a really beautiful, positive, artistic way of seeing the world. But from the deepest spiritual teachings that exist, this world is considered and referred to as a fallen world. So in other words, there was a time when there was no death, when there was no limitation, when there was no illness, there was no lack of, and limitation, no conflict of any kind. Now, why would we want to defend a world that has the opposite? Why would we want to say, you know, oh, I don't want anybody, you know, criticizing. I think, for example, the body is the temple of God. No, it isn't. The body is a miscreation. The body didn't exist when we were one with all that is love. The body was a crystallization, a manifestation. You know, just like there are some creatures, especially, you know, sea creatures, but creatures that their very process of grinding away creates their outer shell. Our very process of having lived on this planet, having come into the material world, our inner stuff about having lost sight of our divinity ground out this shell we call the body. Then we started worshiping it. Isn't the body wonderful? I don't know. You die. If that's wonderful to you, great. You age, if that's wonderful. You get sick. But I'm saying that's not as good as it gets. People that think that nature is the absolute greatest depiction of God are fairly messed up. Because that means that's to you, because if God is as good as anything can be, and you think nature is the greatest manifestation of God, and in nature one creature eats another, there's a problem. If you think that you know, suns that can burn out, planets that can collide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it just tells us that, wow, how sad that you believe that's as good as it gets. How do you explain to a child, but mommy, why did daddy die? Well, honey, and you're going to hit him with the religious answer? It's just the mysteries of God, which means I have no clue. How do you explain these things, you know? How do you explain to your own heart if you lose a child? The human, you know, the heart knows things the mind knows not of. There are things, more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophies. Well, what that means is our soul knows far more than our body. And our spirit knows far more than our soul. Our spirit was created holy and perfect in God's image for how long? Forever. That can never change. But what we can do is, that's the divine up here. What we can do is believe contrarily. And once you believe contrarily, you manifest the lower three chakras, your physical, emotional, and intellectual self starts manifesting the results of that belief. Now, is it horrible that we miscreated a world? Is it horrible that we have limiting beliefs? No, it's not horrible, because ultimately it's not true. Here, in my spiritual self, my I am God presence, the Christ that I am, knows differently. But bloody hell, the rest of me just doesn't get it. Because I believe, I have doubts, and then it keeps manifesting. The more humans identify with this limited self out here, again, out being the lower chakra experience. When we think we're just physical and emotional beings, what does it mean? It means I'm in my lower chakras. Not cursing lower chakras. I'm saying I'm merely identifying myself as being a human. And some people say, well, you have to accept, you know, you're just a human being. No, you're not. You're pretending to be a mere mortal. A divine being is pretending to be a mere mortal, which is really odd. It's not like, you know, they're bragging about that in heaven. Hey, did you hear? Divine beings are pretending they're not divine anymore. It's not like that's, God, I wish I could get that. That's not boasted of in heaven. There's just pity. You're kidding. Why would anybody in their right mind do that? They wouldn't, but these people are not clearly not in their right minds. They want to pretend that they're limited. They want to pretend they don't like each other. They want to pretend that they can die or that they can have bills to pay. What's a bill, they say in heaven? You wouldn't understand. Bills are debts. What kind of debts could you have? How could you be God and have a debt? Well, we have no explanations for what these people have dreamt up. But on earth, you have this thing where you couldn't manifest something, so you made up a way to get it anyway. And it's called going into debt. So you owe somebody to get that thing. What do you mean somebody? We're all one. No. On earth, they pretend there's someone else that has something they don't have, so they get it from them, and then they owe them. This is absurd. There is no one else to be indebted to. But somebody's going to pretend they have something you don't have. And why would you want to believe they have it? And this is romance too. You make me feel attractive. You make me feel whatever. So I'm going to go into debt called I do, and and I'm going to owe you. And there's even a contract of some kind. And people over lifetimes go into debt like that. I can never be happy because, let's see, it was 18 lifetimes ago I made vows to never love anybody but you. And then figured out 3 days later, I didn't very much like that idea, and it already wanted to break the contract. And somebody said, oh no, those are vows, and God doesn't want you to not be married forever, and so on and so on. We conjured up this strange world. So needless to say, happiness isn't foremost in our lives. And to reference a couple of the questions here, how to handle this week or any other tense week, storms, weather coming, elections happening, and so on and so on, illnesses and pandemics. This is life on earth. We have to be careful not to act too shocked and surprised that these things happen. This is a fallen world. Now, I'm not saying curse the world. I'm saying recognize, as the Lao Tzu quote that was shared, that the outside world is coming from the inside. So I need to actually work on this, my soul level beliefs, more than I need to fix the outside world. Because people, everything's really about God. When you think you're going to, storm a building and take it over, and when you're going to take over a country and all these external things, it doesn't actually work. All you do is stir stuff up. It's like going into a room to clean it and just quickly dusting everything and watching the dust blow around, and it just settles again. The illusion that I cleaned the room, but you really didn't. You moved the dust around. That's all you did. And in this world, that's all you're doing when you vote and somebody else, is in office. Only the names change. The consciousness is behind it all. And when we as human beings started failing to believe our true deservability in a better life, we stopped manifesting good relationships, good authority figures, good role models. And we just went into a trance where we continually believed we felt further and further into low self-worth. Not an individual, the human race forgot who they are. And then from that belief, that tone, that vibration, it sends a signal out. We would like to create new leaders. How? When you're still messed up in your own mind. So the correction has to be done on the inside. So how do you deal with the tensions and potential tensions, weather or whatever it else is that's coming our way? Find yourself, just find your center. Be the change that you'd like to see in the world. And when people try to scare you with these kinds of announcements, don't shame them and don't shut them down overtly to where you're offending, but just ask yourself, how can I be the presence right now? Capital P, presence. How can I be the difference that I'd like to see in this world? And if you're out in the world and people are fussing about wearing masks, or people are fussing about whatever other things are going on in the world. Being the presence doesn't mean speaking at all. It might. It might mean speaking, but it doesn't have to. Sometimes it's just a smile or a reassurance. Look at the way children and animals can sense a frequency without a lot of words. They can just sense someone's like calm. And it's interesting because they typically will look over at the person who's holding space. Something in them sees it and knows it. There could be all this commotion and somebody over there a child's head is going to turn towards that person. They know something that everybody else that's yelling doesn't seem to know. They too can get scared because of all this commotion. But it's kind of amazing. A stranger can walk up to a scared child, or animal for that matter, and hold presence and reach their arms out. And often, even a stranger would be appealing more than a crazy, familiar person. Healthy people are attracted to niceness. And unhealthy people are, unfortunately, attracted to unhealthy all too often. There's exceptions to the rule here and there, but generally speaking, it's the weirdest thing. I've shared that quote many times. Good old John Bradshaw, who was so big into codependent work and inner child work, and how he said, I always knew in a party who the most screwed up person in the room would be. It'd be the one I was most attracted to. That's just beautiful. Like, wow. He didn't have to go and, muscle test him, Let's see. He just, that's an attractive person. Boy, they're probably an addict too. And they're probably, he just knew that's responsible. Because it's like my stuff is like a little beacon, a little beaker, a beacon, little beep, 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 look at that person. Perfect. That's going to be perfect. Dysfunctional like me. And there's variables. Sometimes I want to feel better about myself. So I get someone who's slightly less dysfunctional, or slightly more dysfunctional, or slightly, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I want to feel a little better, so you need to be worse than I am. I want to feel really down, so I get somebody that looks like they've got it together somewhat, yet they're full-blown messed up. All these, illusions that we set ourselves up for. So, and one of the comments was playfulness. This concept of like external, being a playful kind of a person, to me means being liked. But playfulness is part of what's behind something else called happiness. If you're not happy, how can you authentically be playful? But then behind happiness is joy. You can't actually feel happy without joy. Now, happiness is not what you're thinking. Stimulation forms of happiness, that's fake. I'm really happy. No, you're not. You're stimulated. You're on Coke, or whatever it might be. Or Coca-Cola for that matter, God, I feel great. Yeah, how you doing? Oh, I feel great. I've had my coffee. That's not joy. That's just chemical reaction. That's just stimulation. Oh, I feel great because somebody looked at me today and, complimented and made me feel young and attractive, Anyway, that's not happiness. True happiness comes from joy, and joy is a state of divine feeling. So how do I increase my playfulness, my happiness, my joy? Remember, playfulness is the outer manifestation. Happiness is an emotion, but it should all come from a feeling, a divine feeling. The external playfulness is a external manifestation. It's like lower chakra. Doesn't mean bad. I'm saying it's a manifestation of the next chakra, an emotion, happiness, which should be coming from another thing called feeling in the heart of joy, which comes from connectedness to God. So what I'm describing, there's two groups of people that think they're playful or happy for that matter. One is a fake version, one is a real version. If you're not plugged into God and you don't feel joy, then we know it's not real. Simple as that. So to really understand happiness, there's a couple of things we've got to really come to understand. And one of them is, it doesn't come from anything outside of us. What people think of you should not raise or lower your happiness level. It's going to be tempting to go that route. Gosh, I was voted the number one of something or other, and you're going to feel a little high on that. And then you go, oops, Michael was saying it should be coming from God, not from external. Don't shame that it happened externally. What I'm saying is you can take it back a notch and say, but I choose to make this an internal experience as well. So don't just get caught in the external when it's happening. Don't shame it and wrong it. Just turn it into something deeper. I noticed that I'm feeling really great today. And I'm noticing, some of it came from the fact that I won the lottery. Or someone told me I was the most attractive person they've ever met. And you notice it. Well, it's not my fault. They're the one who said it. What do I do? Shame it? No. Just stop and go, but I recognize and accept this is really about who I am. Even if I feel a little up, a great step, in my walk, and then I realize it's because somebody really told me how great looking I am or something, just stop and say, but deep down, that was a manifestation of the divine in them seeing the divine in me. Just turn it into something more positive and spiritual. Don't leave it on the shallow level, because then it dies on the vine. We can turn it back into something profound. And then when you do that, it's great because I took a stimulus into a divine feeling and now it's mine forever. So now somebody's compliment was made into something amazing and eternal. If it's only left on the outside, it's done as soon as it occurs. As soon as someone says, oh, you look great, you feel great for a second, it's not going to last because it's not rooted in anything that's real and eternal. That's, to a degree, that's what Jesus was saying when he talked about prosperity and so forth. Or when you do a kind deed. He says if you do a kind deed and you're looking for a compliment, external stimulus, it's already done. And he said, that's over. There's nothing left that you'll receive from that. But he says when you do kindness in the secret place in your heart, it stays. It becomes treasure in heaven. That's what he's using as a metaphor for what I'm describing here. So sometimes we go to the extreme and say, oh, I don't want anybody to ever know I'm doing anything good. I don't want any thanks because then Jesus won't be grateful when I get to the other side. That's taking it a little too extreme. But turn it into something deeper. Even when somebody looks at you and they're just on a totally base level, whistling as you walk by a construction site or somebody's, whatever it is, you have the right to say to yourself, to the person in your mind, you have no idea. But thanks for reminding me. You think you're attracted to the way I look. And I mean, you can be all dressed, looking hot and whatever. It's not the point. The point is, I'm going to turn this into, this is about divinity. Something in you is drawn to something beautiful in me. Thank you for reminding me of my beauty. Turn it into something of a higher nature. Don't shame yourself and start putting layers of clothes to hide your look. But you've done that in other lifetimes, nuns and whatever other garbs you put on to kind of stay away from looking nice, just draping and so on. It's okay to look good. It's okay to feel good, but turn it into something better. It's like a teacher, Osho, would say. Even the tweeting of birds is a sensual and beautiful thing. Not because they're getting it on, but the birds are tweeting. It's the life underneath. It's like, why are they singing when the sun comes up? Whatever you think it is, well, it's their way of communicating. It's their way of expressing some sort of mating ritual. It's not the point. That's the outside. Inside, it's called life. Whether they're leading to mating, whether they're leading to food, whatever, it's still called life. So there's a higher vibration, a higher purpose behind even the sound of a song of a bird. So somebody whistles at you, we need to get used to turning everything into a higher message. Hidden behind every act of your body to try to fight a sickness. It's not the sickness that's the important thing. It's just there as a symbol. It's not even your immunity trying to fight it and the magnificence of how the body works, because that's still an illusion as well. You know what's amazing is that why would my immunity even do that? Because inside me, there's a desire to live. And what's behind that? The presence of God. the source of all life. And even if I die, I can turn everything into a deeper meaning. I can look at death as a failure, a death of sickness got the best of me, or I can say, I've really done a lot of work in this lifetime. I can see that I've made a difference. I'm really grateful. Whatever difference you've made, even if it's only one thing you've ever done that was right, still, and now I need to rest. Just turn it into, I rest in God. Even turn that into something different, something beautiful and profound. It's called free will. We can do that. We have the right to turn something into a more beautiful experience. There's not one bottle you ever picked up and drank to try to get drunk that wasn't a quest for God, just misdirected. There's not one person that ever did acid, colors and whatever else, that wasn't really looking for God. It's just not in the direction that you'll actually find God. Everything is an attempt. Every sexual act, everything has always been a quest for God. And if you say, then I was really questing, man, because I slept with like 500 people. Yeah. And what's odd is you didn't figure it out after the first one. 500 people later, you're still like, this one for sure. And all you need to do is get it. It doesn't matter if it took you 5,000 attempts at getting drunk or stoned or sex or whatever. Did you get it? Because when you leave this lifetime, all they want to know is, did you get it? And when you say, no, but another 500 should do, they're just sending you back. As a person whose organs don't work, just to add a little frustration to it all, you'll be alone on an island somewhere, You're going to have to deal with it. Did you get it? Did you learn? And whatever our misdirections were, which often you can discover by things like numerology or your astrology, that often is showing you your gifts and challenges. And in my opinion, our gifts are usually there to help us overcome our challenges. But most people don't see it and think it through like that. I'm a really great communicator, but I'm really messed up with a connection with my body. Then to me would be, how do I use communication to get more in touch with my body? Or if it's the other way around, so be it. Using our strengths, you have them for a reason. Well, I was told that I have these challenges. The challenges were never meant to be the end of the story for you. Challenges are always something we can meet and overcome. That's why we're here. You didn't come back just to share your wonderful gifts. If you're here, there's likely something you can improve upon. And it could be self-worth. It could be having better boundaries. It could be getting an addiction, under control, whatever it happens to be. Edgar Cayce used a phrase that some people got confused by. When he did his readings, life readings, like meaning all the lifetimes with people, they would say, has this person ever lived in ancient Egypt? And if so, what happened there? He often would say, the soul gained and lost. That was his way of wording it. And what he was getting to was, here's where they got lessons and improved upon things. Here's an area that they ignored and didn't get quite right. Now, Jesus later in the diary notes of Helen, who received from him A Course in Miracles, he said Cayce probably should have fine-tuned the wording of that a little. And he's saying, because gained and lost is kind of a linear way to have observed our past, our lessons and all that. Jesus was trying to give a more positive perspective, meaning even if you didn't get your lessons, it doesn't mean you actually lost. Guess why? They're coming back. So there's actually never a loss, because when you look at time as an illusion, then you don't have 100 lifetimes of ignoring your lessons. Technically, it's one. Your experience in the world of illusion. And you're going to eventually get it. So Jesus was simply trying to go to a deeper level with it, saying, everybody's going to get it. But you and I know that still doesn't work for us. We still want to get it. It's an illusion, but I still have to get it while I'm here. So whatever the lessons are, it's less attachment or less susceptibility to attachment to people or to money or whatever the lessons are, I've got to get those. And if I want to raise my level of God's presence, there's things I need to do and not do. And one of them, when it relates to the feeling of joy, I want to be happy. And all of us should ask ourselves, are you happy? Be careful before you jump with the New Age answer, oh yes, I'm totally always happy. Okay. But are you truly happy? And do not think that I'm telling you must be 24/7. There's nothing wrong with having a low day or whatever, okay? But are you truly happy, and is it fairly consistent? I think that's a good thing to go, yes. But most human beings, believe it or not, don't feel that way. It's quite sad if you think about it. And if you're not happy, technically, you're depressed. And it's quite depressing to not be happy. Think about it. So somebody says, oh, I'm one of those. He's talking about depression. That's called clinical depression. Everybody's depressed. Not experiencing God 24/7 fully, blissfully is depressing. That's why many people, one of the reasons many people don't think too much about God is it's depressing. Because if you start thinking about God, you're going to think about how you're made in the image of God, you're one with God, but I don't feel like it. So I'd rather think of something else than the fact that I'm not feeling something that I could never really lose track of, sight of, feeling of, connection to. So it's like, okay, my happiness level, somebody wrote to me, I think it was maybe they posted it on YouTube, and they said, here's what was meaningful to me in a talk I heard you share, Michael. You said God actually wants us to be happy. Like, should I take this job or this job? I think it was maybe last week we talked about this. But should I do this or this? And I said, you think God actually wants one or the other. That's not how this works. There isn't a God job and an ego job. And look at the conflict we feel. Which one is it? Pendulum and tarot and muscle testing and, like, I'm going to do dream work on it. Which one of them is the God one? And the reason you don't get clear answers is because you don't have a clear question. You're saying which one's the God decision. And God is saying, I don't care. You must care. Which one? Which one? Which one? I don't care. All I care about is you happy, being happy. No, that can't be right. Let me do it again. Get this right. Another question, another chance at this. And it's so hard for people just to realize. God just says, I love you so much. The right answer is the one that most resonates with your happiness. No, there's got to be another one. No. Because we have big decisions, jobs. Should I marry this person or not? God's like, I wouldn't, but no, I'm kidding. But, it's like, what resonates with happiness? But not stimulation. Because that's where some people say, well, I followed the right one and then it went badly. You followed stimulation. You said, well, which relationship? Well, wait, Michael said that God wants us to be happy. Well, that one's pretty hot. I'm pretty happy about that. And you go with that. But that wasn't asking correctly. Happiness, I said, is supposed to be rooted not in stimulation, but in joy. Which of these choices resonates with joy? And joy is not like joy. It's a feeling of connectedness. Almost like I feel so happy, I feel happiness for everyone. It's not like, I see you're bummed out. I'm feeling a lot of joy. Wow, me, joy. You're happy. It's really just happiness, which is really just stimulation. Real joy is like, I feel so good. How are you today? How can I make a difference in your life? And even when somebody doesn't look good, you see good in them somehow. Because you're so filled with joy that even when you look at somebody who's ill, somehow you're seeing goodness in them, brightness in them. I mean, joy is this really beautiful, profound, not passive in the way we think of it. It's actually expressive. And we hear, examples of that in scriptures and so on. But it's the birds singing in the morning. That is their singing, but underneath it, it's joy because they're connected to life. and someone is in their house looking out the window at the birds, thinking, oh God, you guys woke me up, and they're all bummed about it, looking all miserable out the window. What's wrong with you birds? Get a life, and then you got to go over and start making, whatever that, your gadgets for coffee, and then, and you stretch and then get in your car and go to work. How come the birds are singing about work? I get to go foraging for food today, and you're like, I'm miserable. I got to go to work. I don't like my job. I don't like anything. So God is saying, please take responsibility. Please consider that you're not a victim of the world you see. If you think it's miserable, that's a good place to start changing. Not you're bad for thinking miserably. You're bad for losing some of your gains that you could have had in lifetimes. It's just, now where are you going to go with it? I choose life. I just choose life. And God, the all-powerful, creative, expressive being of the universe, wants nothing more than my happiness. That seems surreal. Well, you mean he wants, a general happiness in the world as long as we don't have war. And no, God wants happiness for the guy that's in a dugout, a trench in war. He wants it for a crazy dictator. That's all. God doesn't say, I want happiness only for good people. Well, who are they? That means we'd have ruled out groups of people throughout history all along. So it's for everybody. And if you think, I want to be happy, but I don't want somebody that's been mean to me and hurt me to not be happy. If you do that, you're segmenting your own happiness, kind of cutting out your own happiness to a degree. So you'll never have total happiness because it's not totally desired for everybody. I wish happiness upon everybody. Yeah, but somebody hurt me, but they wouldn't have if they were happy. So you can hate them and think that might get them back for what they did, or you can live dangerously in a good way and wish happiness for them and they won't harm anybody else. Which one would you like to do? No. I'm still not going to wish that for them. That's okay. Then, okay, it's okay. You're going to be a client, who's miserable. You're going to be sad, depressed, aching, and so on and so on. You're going to be somebody's client somewhere. If not today, then next week, next month, next year, next lifetime. At some point, you're going to go to somebody and say, hey, listen, I don't know why, but such and such hurts. And they're going to help you track it. And eventually you're going to be back to the conversation about the person that you refused to wish love upon. And you can take lifetimes to get there. Because God only wills and wishes for your happiness. So it's going to happen. Well, no, I don't want it yet. Well, good. Another lifetime will do then. But time is running out. So you can't just go, well, I'm just going to run away from this. I'm going to sneak away from that. I'm going to, avoid and deny and repress. And time's running out. It's happening now where people, when they pass away, they're incarnating faster than ever in history. Because if time is running out, there's no more buffer. There's no more place where you can go and hide and go, well, I'm going to just spend 3 lifetimes on Venus, in some blissful, happy, loving kind of experience. No, the doors are closing on every other dimension. You have to keep coming here. You don't get to go anywhere for a long, prolonged period. You get to the other side and it's like, your papers, please, okay? Quickly, that subway right there. Boom. They just put you in a shuttle right back to the earth plane. And it's like, wow. You were somebody that was, a jerk. They already incarnate again. And now you're a cougar. And you're dating the person that was your parent that you didn't like. They came in, they're 20 years younger than you're like, wow, like younger people, And it's your own parent that came back. Because nobody can go very far away. We're back. People are becoming their own grandchildren. It's just creepy, So thinking that I want out of here, which is a typical thought we all have at times. But I want out of here. I jokingly say that at times, but it's like, get out of here and you're coming right back anyway. So your better bet is to make the life you have the absolute best. Instead of, well, if I weren't in this lifetime, clearly I would have a better lifetime if I could exit and come back. What makes you think that? Because you're still you. If you had abandonment issues now and you die or take your life or anything like that, and you come back, you just have abandonment squared. You know, all they do is turn the flame up hotter on your issues so that you don't miss them next time. And turning the flame up is called hell. You know, it's the burning. There's the burning desire for me to work on this because behind it all is my quest for God. But there's also the burning desire to deny these things in myself. That's inner conflict. And that's why we get sick. And that's why we hurt emotionally. Because we're constantly trying to avoid that which we should embrace and release. But humans don't do this. Not as a habit anyway. So happiness, which comes from joy, which comes from connectedness to God. Happiness, know what it isn't. It does not come from anyone or anything outside yourself. Before you need to know what happiness is, know what it isn't. Then begin looking at happiness comes from a few things. One of them, first foremost, it's a choice. And don't ever forget that. I can feel happy and joyous, but it's a choice. Well, no, it's not. If something's not going well, it's not my fault. I know. So own it, cry, scream into a pillow, therapy it, do whatever you need to do. But at some point, say to yourself, and it's still a choice. Drag yourself outside into your yard. I don't have a yard. I only have an apartment. Go out on your porch. I can't go on my porch because, it's in a rough area. People are going to shoot me if I'm out on my balcony. Okay, go in your bathroom. Lay in your tub. I only have a shower. Then stand in your shower and pretend that it's some sort of ascension chamber, But go sit or stand somewhere and say, even with humor, oh my God, I'm going to think about this for a moment. No, today wins. This is the most miserable day I've ever had in all my existence. And in all lifetimes. I'm checking. Nope. Even in other lifetimes, I've never been so miserable. Say it. Get it out. And then say, and then that guy, Michael, was saying that it's a choice. It's not a choice. This happened. I woke up this way. That's okay. Be mad at me. I don't mind. Then say, but he said it's a choice. So what I'm going to do is say, I'm angry, miserable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I would like to feel differently. Just try it. Just an ounce of happiness would be nice. And you just close your eyes and breathe and imagine that you're drawing that into your being. Happiness. I know it's not going to work because do it anyway. Happiness, happiness, flowers, rainbows, happiness, and try it. You'd be surprised what happens when you crack open the neuron that you're trying to lock shut. Even if it's just a picture of flowers. It could be where you're in your ascension chamber, called your shower, and you're done, and you might have had, in that ascension chamber, you might have had a thought. I'm going to go listen to a certain song. And it might be that song that externally will be the thing. See? It's happening. The outside isn't what made me happy. The outside became an inspiration to act it out. You see the difference? That song doesn't make me not depressed. That song I'm choosing because I've already chosen to not be depressed. It's the dance on the outside. Some people it's going to be to dance. Some people it's going to be sing a song that you always thought was a ludicrous song, then sing it. Oh, God, I hate that song. Then sing it louder so you can laugh at yourself. Just find a way to break the tension, break the spell you're in, and whatever it might be. Sometimes it's a poem. I've never written a poem, and yet you go, well, I've never written one, but okay, that's kind of weird. Why did that come to me? Sing a song or something. Sometimes you go for a walk and you come back and you go, this is weird. I forgot that I was miserable. I went for a walk. I came back on a 0 to 10 scale. I was feeling a 2. And now I feel like an 8. How did that happen? Well, you can analyze it if you want, but I would just start giving thanks. And another thing to change that quotient of peace, happiness, joy, is share it with other people. I don't care if it's literally to go and serve in a soup kitchen, or if it's less obvious and you just go into a store and give a card with $10 in it to somebody. It's hard to stay miserable when you're bringing joy to other people. Okay? So think about this. Joy and happiness, they're a choice. And lastly, joy and God and peace and joy, all that God is always here. When I say it's a choice as though we're going to go get it, it's here. The choice is actually to get out of the way. Now, don't get me wrong. I know there's days in my life and have been days in my life where something was so off. Some tensions or some things were going on that were so intense. I was viscerally dead, viscerally terrified, viscerally angry, or whatever it was. Things do happen to us. So if somebody just lost a child, Michael isn't saying, well, get over it. You know what'll help as you're still in the hospital and they just told you, just jump and click your heels. Start singing. Just a spoonful of sugar makes it, and you're going to be all better. You know what? I would just say mourn. Cry, and it's okay. Process. But there's a moment where you can get out of bed, maybe a day later, maybe it's a month later, where you'll get out of bed and shower off and say, and now I'm going to start living again. Give yourself permission to resurrect after your crucifixion. It's still a choice. I'm not telling you how quickly you should make yourself choose it. That's more of an allowing. But it is nice to know that I can allow that. And it's nice to know that I can allow myself to be sad an extra day. But the more I grow spiritually, the sooner I get used to bouncing back. If you inherited money and you've had lack all your life, and you inherit money, and you go, I'm going to save it though, I want to be careful, so you invest it. Stock market dies the next day. Oh, that's great. For sure. A nice Beatles song should make it all better. All you need is love. And I'll sing along and I'll smile that I just lost everything. Is it real? Is it? No, I'd be pretty upset too. And you get scared, and it's you're of age to where you don't have extra money, and that was your money, and somebody ripped you off, in one of those scams, and an elderly person with no money. No, I don't think that I could tell you just click your heels and everything's fine. I'd be scared. I'd be sad. I understand that, but I would do my best to not forget my center. Somewhere here, there is perfect joy. Out here, not so much. But somewhere here. And that's why you hear Jesus talking about faith in God. That's why in the Old Testament you hear about the Holy Spirit telling people, have faith. If everything around you is dead, keep your eye on the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, that light looks like a pinprick in the darkness. It's nothing. It's too small. It's far away. True, but keep moving in that direction because it's certain you're going to get there at some point. And every forgiveness and every surrender of an old wound and an old thought system takes you quantum leaps closer to that light. Besides, how much good is it going to do to dwell on the darkness in the tunnel? I might as well just keep going. When we decide, I don't have it in me, I'm just going to take my life, or I don't have it in me, I don't have any nice people around me, whatever. All of that is already, the outside statements like that are already telling me I've already made a decision inside to give up. How do I look at that? It's kind of sad. How would you feel that way if it was a child of yours that said, Mom, I'm giving up. I get F's in school, the other kids don't like me. Would you really advise them to give up? No. Why? Because you like them. Then advise yourself if you like yourself. Honey, it's okay. It's not okay. Look what's going on. I know, honey. Somewhere deep inside you, this is not happening and it's not affecting you. Deep inside, you cannot be betrayed. But on the outside, I know, honey. But you're not the outside. The real you is the inside. Great. So you're telling me, advising me to have some sort of an alternate experience, some other dimension inside, which, they often put you in hospitals for thinking this way. Everything on the outside sucks, but I'm in another dimension. In my dimension, everything has flowers. Parking lots too. And when we park our cars, the flowers scoot over so we don't run them over. There's no violence, nothing negative in my dimension. I know how that looks. But most of all, instead of fabricating all the external beauties, try to find the inner beauty. Deep inside me is the spark, the light, the flame of God that has never been affected by anything in history, anything in the present, and anything in the future. Nothing can touch this. My divinity is so solid, it's forever. And I want to start tasting that. I thought that when someone gives a flattery, it raises my good feeling today. My good feeling is raised permanently when I see it comes from my flattering myself in a positive way, recognition of who I am. So it's kind of a reversal of all the normal laws if you think about it. I want to be happy. I don't want the stuff of this coming week in my life to get the best of me. Then prepare. Put on the armor of the Lord. What's the armor of the Lord? Is that my defenses? No, it's called love. Love is impenetrable, real love. My happiness, I refuse to let it, fail. So I find happiness, I find joy inside, and if I've got to go to the store, before you go, say to yourself, I heard that there's stuff going on in the world. I'm going to remind myself not to lose sight of this when I go in. And just remember, it's like saying, all right, God, I'm going in. And you have a choice. Don't turn on the news if you don't think you can handle it. But remember, I'm going in. If I'm not back in minutes, send the troops in after me. Just think of it that way. I'm going in. You're going to the store, you're going to a meeting, whatever it happens to be, and there's all this usual conflict or news, and I'm going to be the difference. I'm going to make a difference today. You see what I'm saying? Feel like you're actually a holy warrior, a really beautiful spiritual warrior. Don't make yourself better than the other people, but make yourself into somebody who is choosing to not forget who they are today. And it makes a difference. Let's take a few centering breaths. Yeah. Just reflect. Eyes closed and reflect. What you heard that makes sense. What you heard that can make a difference in your life. My happiness is a choice. If I feel down or depressed, it's not just meaning I chose depression. It means maybe that I didn't choose joy, which is depressing. Hear every note. Like it's a song of the soul. It's an arousing of my soul. Come out. Imagine you've heard these kinds of sounds for lifetimes. Sometimes those notes of music were peeling away of wounds and hurts. let the music seduce away all the hurts and peel them off. Let each note activate something inside. The notes are notes of deep mystery. Make believe that those notes are happy and that they're doing something to your soul. Imagine that they're evoking a desire to dance, just slowly dancing, moving. Not in the mechanicalized ways of typical people, but you're just like a tree and the breeze blowing through. And the tree is so happy. The tree is given life by the air and the sun. We can't see the roots absorbing water that's giving it life or the minerals, but that's what's happening. One tree is a full expression of life. A tree is a symbol of joy. And just imagine that so are you. Imagine some children came to get out of the heat and they came into the shade of you, the tree. And these children decided to just lie back and listen to the sound of the breeze blowing through your leaves, your being. Just picture it. Picture them smiling. Picture those children feeling so safe, even without realizing that's the word, that they fall asleep for a little while. My choice to not be caught up in the world means that I become a safer person for others. And there are days when even I, as a tree, feel the heat a bit too much. And I'm grateful that there are other trees, bigger trees, that give me shade. And lastly, imagine being that tree. The children wake up and they start playing. They're tumbling in the grass. They're playing hide and seek. But try to imagine listening to the giggles of children. How could you possibly not feel a bit happier as a tree today, knowing that you helped create that space? And you, the tree, look over at other trees and you wink at them because you realize, hey guys, we're part of a beautiful ecosystem. Soak that up. Soak it in and quietly feel gratitude. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and stretch out. Please don't take messages like this too lightly. It's not a talk about happiness. It's an experience. Think about I soak this experience in. I get it. Stimulation towards happiness is not what I'm looking for. It's the real thing. How does it happen? Connection to God and a choice to feel more joy in your heart and soul every day. Bring that to other people and you're going to see it manifesting more in your life. It's an interesting reflection again. People think of root chakra. They think of all the kinds of exercises to activate their root chakra, to make you more grounded, to make you more prosperous, to make you more healthy. All of it sounds good for root chakra. You can try all kinds of things, but most people do not know that one of the most, if not the most, crucial means of activating your root chakra is to be of service, to make a difference in people's lives. What does that have to do? I mean, I've got my grounding, and I hug a tree, and I wear space boots, so that I know that I'm grounded, and I eat red meats and do other things to ground me. What does service have to do with it? Here's the secret. When you bring good to other people, it makes you want to be alive. And that turns your root chakra on. It does. Because you have a sense of purpose. When you have purpose, you want to be here. When you don't have purpose, you'll start to disconnect from the planet even more. So a lot of us that feel a little spaced out, a little ungrounded, it's remedied by seeing the difference you make in the world. And if you don't feel you make a difference, I would probably make some changes in my life. We're going to do the collection, please, and then our closing mantra. Let's take a moment to really get that everything in this world is changing. The way people have conducted business is dying. Religion is dying. Politics are dying. Science is dying. Now, it's not like horrible dying. It's dying because it never lived. They only seemed to exist for a little while when people thought themselves so limited they needed the religion to tell them this, the science to tell them that, the politics to tell them that. And now, if you and I are waking up, we're retiring all that. And it looks horrible and violent and catastrophic sometimes, but I'm ascending into a new dimension now where that doesn't exist there. So I'm seeing the process of death, which seems scary, but if you've done hospice work and you know that people start to see lights and Jesus and whatever, it's not that bad. It's quite beautiful. Think of that for religion and science and government. Don't just see them as they're dying so that they can be born to a new level. And that is actually great news. Laugh at it a little as well. God, why did I ever get too caught up in this or that? And you see it for what it is. Something that's eternal would not look as ridiculous as politics. You can quote me on that. I just made that up, but still, it just feels so right. Let it pass. It's not an accident that many churches aren't open. If I were those churches, I would be saying to myself, what are most of them? Oh, we'll be open again soon. You're lying to yourself. Not that you won't be open soon, but there's a reason to be closed in the first place. Because you're already closed in here. You've got to change. Please. And if you don't, worse things will come to the world to help you in that process. So whether it's science or politics, or look how silly it is. And there will be some people who still get loud about it and passionate and intense about it. Why? Because when the ego's dying, it screams louder to live. Buy into it, and you, one of the faithful ones that should have been holding the lights, dropped your job, doused it out, and became afraid in the darkness like everybody else. I'm in this world too. I'm in this too. I can lose a job. I can go. All the things that can happen to anybody can happen to me. So I'm not pretending to be immune to it all. I just know that there's a part of me that is immune to it all. And the more I identify with that part of me, the less effect the other has. And I'm very grateful. And we should all be grateful. at the very least, start with the fact that we have each other. I have this program every Sunday. I can sit in sacred space, sacred service, and hear the truth. And that feeds my soul. Is it just a fad? This isn't bingo, like some churches, cupcake drives and bingo, car washes. We're all too old to be going out and washing everybody's cars on the street anyway. But, and people are watching from all over the world. They can't be here for that. But you know what? It's not. It was never supposed to be bingo. Not that that's okay. That's totally fine to do. When you made that your focus, Jesus started turning over tables in the temple because he's like, you've got to be kidding me. Where's the teacher for today? Who's doing the sacred service? Oh, well, we didn't decide to do that this weekend because we have some other things going on. We're doing some trading, like stock market trading here in the church. He's like, oh, no, we're not going to have this. And tips over the tables. And the way they record it. And the Lord wenteth nutseth. But he didn't. He didn't lose his center. He didn't hate anybody. He just said, bull. No. And you can say no without hating anybody. He's just, no, let's have a reflection of reality here. Boom, table's over. To make them all do what people are in the world trying to do right now. Oh my God, everything's going nuts. Just like when he turned over the tables. Because he's saying, the way you were doing things isn't real. Let me help you get a glimpse of this. So he reflected that to them. And how did they react? Anger. How's the world reacting now? Anger. How are you supposed to react? Like the Christ. Say no if you really feel compelled. Say yes if you feel compelled, but center in God, whatever the case. Right now we're going to give and share donations. Understand, if you have nothing to put in the bag or basket, please let us all hold space for you so that you can become more prosperous. It is God's will that you be great, that you feel great and happy, which won't come from money, but when you feel great, you'll start manifesting differently. But don't forget to share it. Then it becomes permanent in your being. Give, not gratuitously. Give liberally. Give because you know you can. It's another form of life. So we hold our love offering to our heart. And if I have nothing to put in the basket, we're all holding space that you are indeed prosperous. We believe that. You are the presence of God. There's no lack in you. So know that we're holding space saying you're absolutely abundant, and we're advising. Start watching now for signs of abundance, even if it's a penny on the street you find. Pick it up and say thank you. Let's go for a dime. Then $1, then a lottery. At some point, you are deserving of all that God is. But if you deny it, push it away, or fail to give thanks, then it means you're already living death. Father, Mother, God, we give thanks. Abundant gratitude. See the donations helping many people. See your gifts and your changes in your own heart and soul changing and affecting many people. See that you can afford to get $10 to somebody in line at a grocery store. Just see it. I'm dancing. I'm alive. I'm feeling joy. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you. While they're passing those around, can anybody share what they learned or heard today that made the most sense or that can make a difference in your life or the lives of people around you? Yes, dear.
Michael, I love what you said about how our gifts are provided to us to help overcome our challenges.
Very good.
And how that ties so beautifully into your initial message about becoming the change we want, not only in ourselves, but in the world.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear. About becoming the change you want to see in the world, but she also liked, that your gifts are what's going to help you overcome your challenges. And that would also mean that your ego is going to try to use your challenges to snuff out your gifts. Do you want that to happen? No? Then do something about it. Nurture those gifts. Give thanks for those gifts and bring them to other people. Share them with other people. Yes, dear, in the back?
Yeah, when you talked about the person going into the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
it made me think of that movie, Little Big Man, when he
Yeah.
I think it's possible to be in that state where
Yeah, like she's reflecting like a memory of a scene in a movie, but walking through where you just know everything's fine. You just feel immune to the stuff, around you. There are great people in whether it's in a church or whether it's in a battlefield. There are people historically who have demonstrated that kind of, I'm fine. Abraham Lincoln, just before Gettysburg, the South won the war. People don't know that. The South kept winning, and they pushed all the way to Washington to the White House. I mean, it was pretty amazing if you think about it. The South was like, well, we've won every battle practically. I mean, literally. They won, kept winning to where it's like, well, what do we do now? We keep winning. Well, I guess let's just go to the White House. And they keep pushing north, and people don't realize it. Bullets were flying by the head of Abraham Lincoln because he's standing up going, what's this? Fing, fing, and they're like, sir, they got to tackle him and hide him. He stood up. He knew this is not right. Something's wrong with this. And miracles happened, pushed them back, and Gettysburg happened, and the war turned around. You got to stand and know that you're immune. King David says, in one of the Psalms, there could be 1,000 bodies to the left and 10,000 to the right. And somehow I'm okay. And if you think I'm okay, and that's proof that I will not die, you're not, Krishna tells you, it's not supposed to be as long as you don't die. It's even in death, I'm fine. Oh, I don't like that one. I like the 1,000 to the left, 10,000 to the right, and I get to live forever. You can't, as soon as you start making it your call, you have attachments and you've already lost. Even if you win the battle, you've lost the war. Consciousness is what we're looking for and going for, and never settling for anything less as our priority. You're going to be fine. I don't care how harsh the divorce looks. It cannot touch the real you. But the rest can seem sometimes hurtful and sad. I understand. Yes.
I also really like the idea of God be with me in this situation. I had a challenging situation a couple weeks ago. Well, it wasn't really challenging because I asked for help before I went in. And it turned out to be it was with somebody who, we have opposing views on things.
Okay.
But we found the bridge.
Nice.
We found the bridge. But I know I did it because I asked for help.
Right.
I just said, I don't want to discuss these things unless
Nice.
you're with me and giving me harmony.
So typically what would have been a combative conversation, you surrendered, not help this person see how I'm right.
Right.
But the bridge and the win-win, and you felt a miracle happen.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Very cool. Thank you, guys. Yes, one more.
And then if I don't have the joy and the happiness or don't like what's going on in my life, choose differently.
Right. Choose again.
Choose again.
If the joy and the happiness isn't there, choose again. But remember, I'm not shaming you for not feeling joy and happiness. Sometimes there's hurts that have happened. Cry, go through, do what you need to do. Call your sponsor. Do what you need to do that's responsible, even if it means get in a bath and sit in there for an hour. Even if it means going to bed, taking a nap. Do something. But before you go to bed, surrender the stuff to God so that while you're sleeping, neurons can be rewired. It will happen. And I've seen that happen in so many times in my life that I kind of laugh, and sometimes I even just test it. I'm already feeling like a 7. Just for the heck of it. I'm going to go ahead and surrender, and just testing it. And 10 minutes later, an hour later, I'm a 9. It's okay to play with it and realize you have some say-so here. Play with these things. Don't believe high doesn't mean I can't go higher. Low means it's impossible to change it to high. All of it's doable. Yes, dear.
I like the part where it's not for us to decide. It's not for us to choose. When you were saying, you don't have a backyard, you don't have this, and you finally said, so go into the shower.
Right.
Because we always decide what's best for us, what we have to do. Damn it, go into the shower
Right.
and make that
Right.
your where you have to go.
Find your space to get centered, like the
It's not
shower
for us
even.
to decide.
See, if I say, well, this is all fine and dandy. Michael's talking about this, and I know people have their temple room, You know, where the inside there are the beautiful candles and crystals on table. It's all beautiful. And then they say, but you know what? That's insensitive of Michael to say, because I don't have a temple room. I have a one-room apartment. I understand. And when you say, therefore, I don't have that room to go and find God, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know, that's kind of a bummer, isn't it? And that person would say, yes, it is. And that's almost depressing that you don't have a nice space to go to. Yes, it is. And I would say to them, and because you're not choosing to find a corner of a room, you're choosing the depression. You're not choosing happiness, God, and so on. You're actually choosing non-happiness, and that's depressing. As a kid, I had a room, you know, and whatever, but I didn't feel great in my household. It wasn't great. You know what? When my parents had their bedroom redone and had new carpet, I was like, oh, that is the softest, coolest carpet ever. So there was a remnant. I cut a dang thing, stuck it in the corner of my room, and I had my heaven right there. If I'm always going to be thrown in my room on restriction, I'm going to have a thick carpet. That's where I spent my life. I'm going to have a thick white carpet in the corner. You know, I made my reality. Then I took my Earth, Wind, and Fire albums, cut them, you know, stuck them on the wall because cool Atlantean posters. I'm like, you're a shining star, no matter who you are. You know, I made it happen. So don't say, I only live in my car. Fine. Dangle a crystal from the mirror, you know, if that's all you can do to make it your space. There's always a way to do something. There's always a way. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourselves in all areas of your life. Happiness is your destiny, so why not now? Happiness comes from joy. Joy comes from connectedness. It's hard to plug into God and go, this is depressing. It doesn't make sense. You plug in, you feel joy. The joy becomes happiness, and the happiness becomes an external change in your life. So please keep that in mind. Please stand. We're going to do our closing mantra. A moment of gratitude, just feeling the aliveness. Thanks for your extra time. We've gone a few minutes over, but thank you. And remember, this doesn't end here. Take what you've heard, absorb it, and do something with it out there. Even if just one thing at a store, a gas station, whatever, bring it. Don't say Michael said. Don't say I was at Unity and it did to me. Be this change. And just bring a smile. And let them, it's really great to mess with people's minds that way. Let them wonder why you look so happy. You know, let them just go, it must be Sedona. No, it isn't Sedona. This place is nuts a lot of the time. It must be, they must have eaten properly. No, I had donuts and milk this morning. It's what makes them so, and leave it a mystery. Because you know what it is? The presence of God. And if they ask you, just say that. Just having a God day. You know, just leave it about you and God. Okay? Thank you so much. The light of God surrounds us.
We are the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
We are the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
We are the power of God.
And the presence of God watches over us.
We are the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. God bless you and thank you all.